Hey guys, Zelda here. I've had a couple people ask me for some tips and pointers on how to learn how to sew, and I've actually got a new project coming up, so I thought it might be a good opportunity to kind of walk you guys through the process while I'm going through it. I should point out that I'm not a professional in any way. I've had zero actual training. Everything I know is from a lot of trial and error, mostly a lot of error. I'm not claiming this is the best way to do it. I'm definitely not claiming it's the only way to do stuff. I'm just going to show you what I know how to do and what I've figured out works. If you want to go to other places on the internet and find other ways to do it, by all means go for it. You are not going to hurt my feelings. I can only show you what I know how to do. So at the very least, it'll get you started somewhere. A bunch of the videos coming up in the next couple of weeks will actually be specifically for that project. It's going to be me walking through how to do that, so if you want to follow along with it, awesome. But some of the techniques will also apply to other things that you may want to do. And on the flip side, there will be a couple videos that will just be general and not have anything to do with any particular project, so that'll make it really easy for you to figure out what it is you need to do for whatever it is you happen to want to make. Like today's a general one. When you're starting a project, when you're planning it out, you have a very basic choice to make, and that's whether or not you're going to use a pattern or if you're going to kind of wing it. And by wing it, I don't mean just like close your eyes and just start cutting at fabric. I mean if you're going to use something that's not a pattern that you can go buy somewhere if you're going to try to make your own, or use something less conventional as your basis. Which way you do it will really depend on a number of factors. It's going to be your ability to actually find a pattern that fits what you're looking for, your ability to visualize all the pieces that you would need if you didn't go and get a pattern, and the amount of work you're willing to put in. If you can easily find a pattern that'll serve as a good base, or if you're not confident in your ability to figure out all the different pieces that you would need, you're better off finding a pre-done pattern and just trying to alter it to fit what you want this to look like in the end. Patterns tend to be inexpensive by the time they do all the discounts on them, so I would recommend that even if you are planning on winging it, that you still find a pattern that's kind of close to what you're looking for, especially if this is your first major sewing project. There can be a lot of pieces you don't really expect to need and don't necessarily pop in your head, and then you're in the middle of the project and you go, oh, it would be easier if this was actually two separate pieces. So if you're going to wing it, definitely try to go find something so at the very least you can see all the pieces that you would need. Even if you don't end up using the pattern, it'll at least break everything down for you so that way you know kind of how to plan. An exception to that would be if you're doing something super simple like a tunic that you can literally do in 4 pieces, which is something I will tell you how to do at some point. So at that point you don't really need a pattern. It's going to be more work to try to figure out how to use the pattern than it will be just to cut fabric in the case of something like that. Personally, for my cosplays, I've never actually used a pattern. I tend to just find clothing that I already own that fits the way I want the cosplay to fit, and I will literally lay that on my fabric and trace it, and then cut out an extra ½ inch around it for a seam allowance and call that good. That's what I've done for my Link tunic, and that's what I did for my Zelda dress. I literally just grabbed a t-shirt and traced that, and then when I got to the bottom of the shirt, I just kept the line going, and that's how I made a skirt. I have another cosplay I want to do coming up that will use a corset, and those can be really deceptively difficult and have a lot of pieces to them, and if you don't do them just right, they can pucker and look weird. So when I get around to doing that, I will definitely be using a pattern for it. So in short, to sum it up, I'd say at the very least you need to go look at patterns so you know what you're getting into, even if you're not going to ultimately use one. I think it's enough for now and should be enough to get you started in the initial planning stages. In the next video, I'll probably talk about actually how to go about finding a pattern, because that section of a craft store can be pretty daunting if you don't know what you're doing. And then I'll talk about how to interpret all the jargon on the back of it too, because there's a lot of stuff back there, but you actually don't need to look at a lot of it. In the meantime, if you have any comments or questions, be sure to leave them in the comments section below, and I'll try to get back to you on anything, or make sure I keep it in mind for a future video. And check the description below for links to my Twitter and Rooster Teeth profiles. I usually do work in progress posts there if you want to see what I'm working on. And I'll catch you later, guys! Which way you do it will depend on a couple different factors. It's going to be your ability to figure... Bleh, it'll be your ability to talk to a camera. Which way you do it will depend... Oh, that's on camera.